Everyone has been asking the wrong question about Kyle Larson. For 8 years, the question was when he would leave the NASCAR Cup Series. Nobody thought to ask who would make that call. In late July 2026, the two-time champion finally answered. And the answer is not Rick Hendrick, not a sponsor, and not Larson himself. 3 people will decide the future of the number 5 car, and none of them are old enough to hold a driver's license. To understand why this matters, you have to go back to June 2018. Kyle Larson was 25 years old, driving for Chip Ganassi Racing and still building his reputation in stock cars. During an interview on the Open Red podcast, he floated an idea that would follow him for the rest of his career. He wanted to leave full-time NASCAR Cup Series competition and chase a full-time winged sprint car championship, and he wanted to do it before his 40th birthday. Shortly afterward, the official account for the World of Outlaws asked him directly on social media when he planned to run full-time with the series. Larson replied with 3 words, "Before I'm 40. The response from the NASCAR community was immediate and, in some corners, hostile. A subset of fans who followed only stock car racing interpreted the comment as a dismissal of the sport that had made him famous. Their argument was simple: NASCAR was a job that Kyle Larson was tolerating until he could retire to the form of racing he actually cared about. The paycheck came first, the passion came second. Larson addressed that criticism directly in a follow-up interview with Matt Weaver, who was writing for Auto Week at the time. His response was blunt. "Look, the money is great," Larson said. "But I wouldn't be here if I didn't love NASCAR and have fun every week. Sprint cars are extremely fun and high horsepower, but I want to be here. The NASCAR lifestyle and the camaraderie you have with the fans is something that is really unique and special." He added a final line that left no ambiguity about how he felt regarding the accusation. "The fans who think I don't like this are crazy." There is important context around those 2018 comments that often gets left out. At that point, Kyle Larson was racing for Chip Ganassi Racing under a strict dirt racing limit of roughly 30 events per year, with none permitted during the playoffs. He was fenced in. The promise to go dirt racing full-time was, in part, a reaction to a schedule that would not let him do as much of it as he wanted. That restriction no longer exists. Hendrick Motorsports has allowed him to pursue an enormous volume of dirt track competition alongside his NASCAR Cup Series commitments, and the difference has changed everything about how he views the trade-off. Now move forward to late July 2026. Speaking to Motorsport.com, Kyle Larson was asked whether he still intended to chase a sprint car championship before turning 40. His answer reframed the entire conversation. Age 40 is still the marker on his calendar, but it is now a checkpoint rather than an exit date. "I started saying this last year, but 40 is my next milestone," Larson told Motorsport.com. "I want to get there and then evaluate if I want to keep going or be done. It all depends on where my kids are in their lives and interests." Then came the reversal itself. As far as competing for a sprint car championship, I would say right now in 2026 that I have changed my mind on that. I feel like I have accomplished a lot since I made those comments. I've been able to win 3 Knoxville Nationals, 3 Chili Bowls, and a King's Royal, all the other races. That list explains the first half of his reasoning. When Kyle Larson made his original promise, the trophies that define a dirt racing career were still ahead of him. They are now behind him. He has won the Knoxville Nationals 3 times. He has won the Chili Bowl Nationals 3 times. He has won the King's Royal. Beyond the victories, he co-founded High Limit Racing, a national sprint car tour built as a direct challenger to the World of Outlaws, alongside his brother-in-law Brad Sweet. The scarcity that made a full-time title chase attractive has disappeared. The second half of his reasoning is arithmetic. "I just don't know what a championship would add to my career, so I'm just not into the idea now," Larson said. "And like I said, I think my kids are going to be busy doing their own racing by that time, so do I really want to commit to an 80 to 90 race schedule?" Then came the line that landed with a laugh. "That's way busier than I am now." That is the honest framing here. The ambition did not die. The scarcity did. Kyle Larson has already won the individual races that build a dirt racing legacy. A season-long points championship would require 80 to 90 events per year, which is a grind rather than a missing trophy. Which brings us to the three people who now control the timeline. Owen Larson is 12 years old and already competing in youth racing. Audrey Larson is 8 years old and has also begun racing. Cooper Larson is approaching 4 and is close to reaching the age where he could start. Their schedules, not their fathers', will determine what happens next. Kyle Larson laid out the math himself back in November 2025 before winning his second title at Phoenix Raceway. Why 40? Well, Owen will be 18, Audrey will be mid-teens, Cooper will be about 10. I think life is going to look completely different for them, Larson said. I'm sure they'll be hopefully successful. If Owen is racing or Audrey is racing, whatever, they'll have a lot going on in their lives then. I would think right now I would want to be a part of that. That is the pivot worth understanding. The chapter after the NASCAR Cup Series may not involve Kyle Larson in a race car at all. It may involve him standing on the other side of the pit wall as a father. Compare the two versions of the man. The 25-year-old in 2018 was planning his future around a race schedule of his own. The 33-year-old in 2026 is planning around 3 schedules that do not belong to him. Before anyone treats this as a retirement announcement, the contract situation needs stating plainly. In February 2026, Kyle Larson and HendrickCars.com signed a 5-year extension with Hendrick Motorsports that runs through the 2031 season. Crew chief Cliff Daniels signed on for multiple additional years at the same time. Larson's own read on the deal was measured. I don't get too wrapped up in the duration or all of that. I really just thought it's nice to know that I will be here for at least 5 years and hopefully more, Larson said. And that is kind of it. I just get to work on trying to win more races and win more championships in the time that I am there. So yeah, grateful, and I feel like it's a very long-term contract compared to what you see these days. So I am very happy with all of that, and yeah, I think that gets me close to 40, and then we will see after that. There is a further detail that reveals how Hendrick Motorsports values him. Rick Hendrick publicly stated that he would have signed Kyle Larson to a lifetime contract if Larson had been open to the idea. So the honest framing is this: nothing changes before 2031 at the earliest. Everything else being discussed concerns a driver at age 41 and beyond. Now for the part that complicates all of it. Entering the Brickyard 400 in late July 2026, Kyle Larson had gone 45 races without a victory, dating back to Kansas Speedway in May 2025. That is the longest drought of his career since joining Hendrick Motorsports in 2021. And it began immediately after he clinched the 2025 championship at Phoenix Raceway. The receipts show this is not a speed problem, it is a closing problem. At Bristol, Larson led 284 laps and swept both stages before finishing third. At Kansas, he led 78 laps and won the second stage before strategy dropped him to second. At Las Vegas, he led 62 laps before fading to seventh. Across the opening 11 races of 2026, he led 499 laps, a figure among the highest in the entire garage, and converted none of them into a win. The recent stretch looks worse on paper than it was in reality. 34th at Chicagoland Speedway came after he led 23 laps and spun from second. 34th at Echo Park Speedway came after a strong run ended in a late multi-car crash. 15th at North Wilkesboro Speedway followed early pit road damage that forced multiple charges from the rear. Before those 3 weeks, Larson finished inside the top 5 in 5 of the previous 6 races. This extends beyond the number 5 team. Hendrick Motorsports entered the Brickyard 400 with 2 wins in 21 races, both from Chase Elliott at an organization backed by 15 championships and 322 victories. Cliff Daniels addressed it directly. We started the year with 4 new team members, Daniels told NASCAR.com. And I try really hard to look at evaluating our process and how does our weekly flow go. And how does our at-track execution through practice and through qualifying and getting race changes done on Sunday. We have improved a lot as a team just in what that is. So a lot of confidence comes with that. Even if our outcomes aren't where we want, we're getting more and more confident just in our process. Daniels also described how unforgiving the series has become. It's a great reminder of just how, if you feel like you're a percent or two off in a couple areas, this sport is tough. He confirmed that Rick Hendrick met with the group that week to reinforce the process of continuous improvement and that there would be a runway before results followed. Kyle Larson's own assessment was direct. "I think you guys pay attention to it way more than I pay attention to it," he said before conceding, "Obviously, I would have loved to have won to this point, but we just haven't been good enough." On where the team currently sits, he was specific. "I think we're a 4th to 7th place car and just need to do our best to finish there." Does the winless streak change the retirement timeline? The evidence says no. The retirement thinking is family-driven rather than results-driven, and Larson signed through 2031 before the drought reached a full year. The counter-argument deserves acknowledgement, though. Drivers who stop winning historically find the exit sooner, and fan discussion has openly questioned whether Kyle Larson goes winless for the entire 2026 season. The reasonable conclusion is that the streak affects his legacy math, not his calendar math. Chasing wins is what keeps him racing past 40, not what pushes him out. What is he actually chasing now? Larson sits tied with Dale Jarrett at 32 career victories, roughly 29th all-time, 8 wins from cracking the top 20. His stated target is Tony Stewart. As far as wins, to me, again, like Tony, I've always looked at Tony. I'll never catch Jeff, so I don't think about Jeff, Larson said. Tony, I think, is in the mid-50s. If I could get to that, I'd be pretty satisfied. A 3rd championship would place him among 11 drivers in history. A 4th would put him alongside Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, and Richard Petty. He has averaged exactly 4 victories per season in the next-gen era, 4 in 2022, 3 in 2023, 6 in 2024, 3 in 2025. Holding that pace for 7 more years would produce roughly 60 career wins by 2032. The dirt door is not closed either, just not a title chase. With high-limit racing ownership, the Chili Bowl Nationals and the Knoxville Nationals continuing. There is also a reason the sprint car title was always a long shot. Only a handful of drivers have won national touring sprint car championships in their 40s. Steve Kinzer, who claimed 7 of his 20 World of Outlaws titles after turning 40 with the last at age 50, won. Donnie Schatz in 2017 and 2018 at ages 40 and 41, and Danny Lasowski at 42. Brad Sweet, Larson's own brother-in-law, retired from full-time sprint car racing at 39. The field he would face around 2033 would be young. Buddy Kofoid would be 30. Ryan Timms and Corey Day would both be 26. Carson Macedo would be 36. David Gravel and Rico Abreu would both be 40. Gio Celsi, Justin Peck, and Dazen Persley would all be under 35. Kyle Larson may have talked himself out of a fight he was going to lose to the calendar anyway. The tweet in 2018 said, "Before I'm 40. The answer in 2026 is ask me at 40. The real headline is not retirement. It is that the decision now belongs to a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 3-year-old.